Right, so the South African government has indicated that it intends to oppose a self-proclaimed Prophet Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary's appeal against his extradition. A Malawian court ruled that the pair could be extradited after South Africa put in an extradition request for the pair to face a litany of charges in the country. Shepherd and Mary Bushiri escaped the country in November 2020 after being granted bail by the Pretoria Magistrates Court, where they were facing multiple charges. Newzroom Afrika's Linda Mnisi joins us now for more. Linda, good afternoon to you. Well, the charges really becoming quite the point of contention at this stage, right?
Yeah, and you'd recall that at this particular point, there isn't a handwritten judgment, that, authorities can make a reference to. So there is a bit of confusion. There's a bit of discrepancy when you look at the statement that was released by the Justice Department yesterday, saying that of the 13 charges that they're taken, basically, about 10 of those met the threshold for Bushiri or Shepherd Bushiri and his wife to be extradited back to South Africa. You look at the reaction by Shepherd Bushiri himself on social media platforms, and he says, well, this is a remarkable victory. 10 of those charges were thrown out by the court, and they're only facing 3. So what is what? So we got to speak to the Minister of Justice about this exactly, and this is what she had to say.
The 10 cases that he has to face are in the South African courts. When you send through the request to extradite, you do indicate that these are the cases that he has to face, and what the court will have to look at is that is there a merit for you to extradite? So there are conditions of extradition in terms of that they would look at whether the person can face torture, the person can be killed, and all those things. So there's no such. So what we must look at, the basis of extradition have been met, and we are confident that those will bring him back, are sufficient enough to bring him back. When he gets here back, he will have to argue with the South African court, because remember, he's on bail of certain charges. Those charges have not evaporated. Those charges remains. He and his lawyers, the family and his lawyers must go and argue. So there are separate cases or charges that his wife is facing. There are separate charges that he himself is facing.
Yeah, so not a straight down the line matter here. So let's talk about the charges that we could see really holding moving forward.
All right, so you'd recall that of the, 10 charges that were brought, there are charges of rape, there violation of bail, contravention of the Financial Advisory and Intermediary Services Act, Banking Act, and the likes. But in the 3, those include, rape cases, as well as the violation of the bail conditions there. So it's unclear really at this point, Naledi, because there isn't that judgment. They're still waiting for a copy of that judgment where they will study it, properly. But I managed to speak to sources who are quite close to this particular case, and they're indicating that perhaps, not even perhaps, but what they're telling us is that, some of the charges, there are no charges that are related to the scheme itself. You'd recall that when he was arrested, it was in relation to a 102 million rand scheme, investment scheme. And what they are saying is that none of those charges, are sticking at this point. So it will be unrelated charges that if he is extradited in South Africa, he will be facing.
Sure. So quite the process that we see ahead of us. And then, of course, the Bushiris ready to appeal. Yeah.
And that means because there's an appeals process, there's also a bail application happening at the same time. And, they want to be released on bail on strict conditions to, of course, continue with their lives. But they want the order that was issued yesterday to be stayed for a period of 30 days, pending the finalization of this appeal process. Because if they don't appeal, if this order is not stayed, then it means the South African government, together with Interpol and the Malawian government, can start engaging on this particular extradition. So it's important for them, if they still want to challenge this order, to have the order stayed.
Sure. All right. Very interesting. And of course, what's the next part? I think this is going to be quite interesting. Well, we've already seen the likes of even the minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, reacting, welcoming the Malawian court ruling. So on our part.
Yeah. So on our part, really, it is the government saying that they are indeed going to oppose this appeal because, of course, at this particular moment, the judgment really says they're extraditable, which means they can come back to South Africa. So what they want now is to appeal. I want us to quickly take a listen to what Mamuluka Kubai, the Justice Minister, had to say about the appeal.
It is through the Department of Justice that we've been able to make an application of extradition. So it's victory of work that we have done. We will follow the process, as we always argue, that we must allow the judicial process to be taken on. We've noted that the couple has applied for appeal. We don't think there are grounds. We don't think that they will be successful because the case that we have made is very strong. So we will, once that communication has been done, communicate through the channels. Obviously, it's Interpol working together with SAPS that they will have to bring here. And we're looking forward for our judicial system to kicking in and also being able to find justice to the victims.
All right, of course, Linda Mnisi, our reporter, they're keeping a close eye on all things Bushiri for us. Really good to have you in studio, and we look forward to getting more updates, of course.